Welcome to Spectral Shadows. This is the place where the stories don't just haunt your mind, they follow you into the dark. Before the whispers begin, tell me, where are you watching from and what time is it? Midnight? Or closer to the hour when shadows move on their own? If you're brave enough to continue, prove it. Like this video, subscribe to Spectral Shadows and leave a comment with your time and location, so we'll know exactly where to find you. Now, let's open the door to tonight's nightmare. Story number 1. Last night I came back from one of those mental health camping trips where all you bring, electronic-wise, is an emergency radio and a digital camera. Other than what I am about to tell you, it was actually insanely good for my health. I was struggling with my job for a little bit, and let's be honest, I was also struggling with life in general, but was able to simply relax. What felt like the first time in years, to be honest. I came back a new person, a fresh slate, to write the rest of my life on. I later found out I came back a new person in a more literal way. The camping part went smoothly. I enjoyed some fishing, cooked with a campfire, met some other people on their own retreat as well. You know, the normal camping stuff. I also took lots of pictures. A week after I arrived, I packed up all of my things and went back to my truck, ready to go back to my home. The ride back went smoothly, but I do have to admit, that first night of sleeping in my own bed, rather than a cot, felt so fucking good. I woke up this morning and decided to go through my photos before heading into work to see what I wanted to download to my computer and what I wanted to trash. This is where things get odd. The first picture was of me with a group of about 6 other people. I don't remember a single one of these guys. All of their faces were blurred out, like they turned their heads swiftly right as the picture was being taken of them. We all had our hands around each other, and the girl next to me was getting really close and personal with my waist, but I don't remember a single one of them. This catches me off guard. I just know I went camping alone, but from the looks of these pictures, I can see my tent in the background, with a couple other tents placed there too, all in perfect condition. It felt like I was staring at an alternate reality, like what could have been if I went with a group. Eventually I shrug it off as maybe drinking a little too much one night and forgetting about a group of wanderers that just set up with me for the night. You know, a lousy excuse that made me feel less insane. Eventually I scroll through the rest of the pics. Some of them are things I remembered, like fishing and cooking, but they always had other people in it, as if they were removed by my memories, and like always, their faces were blurred. Now I go to the second day's worth of pictures. At the start of the day, there seems to be the same picture as before, except the guy all the way to the left wasn't in the picture anymore, just simply gone. Again, the same process continues. The rest of the pictures that day are the ones I remember, but simply with more people added into the mix that I don't. I look at the next day, and another person disappears. The next day, another one disappears, and then another. Again, another goes, continuing the process until there is just me and this woman left, her arms around my waist, hugging me with a blurred face. I noticed that all of the tents were still there, but tattered as if they just got out of a storm. Except mine, which was perfect. Now I am beyond freaking out, trying to make sense of what happened. Who were they? Where did they go? What is happening? Why don't I remember? I look down at my watch and notice that I have been pondering over these photos for way too long, and was a couple hours late for work. I shoved the camera into my bag, and since I was already dressed, I ran to the car. I get into the office about half an hour later, walking in disheveled. I got a few looks from some of my employees, but shrugged them off, heading to my office. One of them walks up to me to ask me something I don't think I'll ever forget. "Where is your wife?" "My wife?" "Yeah, her and the rest of management. You guys all went on a retreat, and you're the first one to come back." I look at my desk and notice a picture with all 7 of us from the original photo. I quickly open up my camera and go back to the first photo, matching the bodies up with each other to confirm their identities. Sure enough, they were the management that I worked with, but I still did not remember a single one of them. I scroll to the last photo I have taken and see me, only me, and 6 blurred bodies hanging, suspended, from trees behind me, with their heads all forcefully bent in a 90-degree angle. I noticed that my hands were both well within view of the picture as my blood went cold. Who was taking all of the pictures? Story number 2. All right, now this is a story I haven't told in a long time. It happened to me in October, 6 years ago. I've told 4 or 5 people since then, and none of them believed me. I decided to stop talking about it when someone filed an anonymous tip to my school's psychologist. That was 4 years ago. I've had a lot of time to think about it since then, and I think I'm finally ready to post my story somewhere. It's about a weekend I spent in the Ouachita National Forest. I had been planning the trip for weeks. Made sure I had the weekend off work. Didn't make any plans. All of that. Started buying supplies a week before I went. I was going to go camping in the forest near my town. I had been camping before, when I was a little kid with my parents, but never as an adult. Never by myself. And never in this forest. I was so excited. Now I'm not an idiot. I took all the necessary precautions. I told a few of my friends where I was going, when I was going to be there, and when I'd be back. I told them if I went missing, to call the cops and all that. I brought an extra phone battery and enough food and water to last me a fucking week. I even brought along the 9mm that my dad gave me when I turned 18. Never shot the damn thing, but I figured it would at least scare off whatever the hell wanted to mess with me. I'm telling you all of this so you know that I'm not just some dumb kid who decided he wanted to take a trip to the forest one day and shit his pants 'cause he saw a bear. No, I knew what I was getting into. I was prepared, just not for this. Okay, enough backstory. I'll get on with it. I left around 6 in the morning. It's an hour drive from my place, so I was expecting to get there around 7. Ended up getting there at 7:30, but I didn't mind. It was a lovely day. Not a cloud in the sky. Great weather. Camping in the cold and rain is miserable, so I was pretty content with my arrival time. I parked my car a ways away from the forest, in a little clearing off the side of the road where I knew I would find it. I gathered my things, had a little snack, and headed off toward the forest. The next few hours are kinda boring, so I'll skip over them. All you need to know is that I made my way well into the forest, set up a camp, and started enjoying myself. Cooked myself lunch on the crummy campfire I made around noon. Watched a pair of birds dancing at each other. I even took a few pictures of some deer I saw with my phone. Couldn't get a good shot, but it's at least proof I was there. But something seemed off. You see, forests are normally kinda loud. Not like city loud, but there's this constant background noise that's always going on. Rustling in bushes and leaves, birds chirping, animals prancing around. When I first got into the forest, that was all well and good. But the later it got, the sounds just started to go away. Not all at once. It took the better part of the day for me to notice. But yeah, the sounds slowly went away. Birds stopped chirping. Bushes stopped rustling. I stopped seeing animals too. That's what made me notice. At around 4 in the afternoon, I realized I hadn't seen a bird in a while. That unsettled me, truth be told, but I steeled myself and kept enjoying the stay. I was feeling kind of lonely, what with the quiet and all. So I called up a friend and chatted with him till sundown. After that, I realized it was getting late, so I hung up, ate again, and put out the fire. After a final assessment of my surroundings and a look at the wondrous night sky, I crawled into my tent to sleep. I kept the 9mm loaded right next to where I slept, just in case, you know. Sleeping on the cold ground in the middle of a forest isn't that easy if you aren't used to it. And considering I hadn't done it since I was a child, I was having a little trouble. It was probably just a rough estimate. 2 hours after I had lied down that I started hearing something in nature again. Now, if I had heard bushes rustling a few hours earlier, this would have been cause for celebration. But even Bear Grylls would get creeped out if it was the only thing he'd heard all night. So I did what any rational human would have done, and clung to the 9mm like it was the only thing keeping me from falling off a cliff. There was silence for a few minutes. The only thing I could hear was my own shaky breath. Then, prancing, ba-da-da-dum, 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 4 footsteps in quick succession, no crunching of leaves or snapping of twigs. Just the steady beat, ba-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-dum. It was getting louder, closer to my tent. I tried to peer through the fabric that separated me from nature, but I couldn't make out a silhouette. I clutched the rifle harder, scared as any person would be. I remember being sure that I would be safe, though. Even bears rarely attack camps unprovoked. But that natural human fear, that was overbearing, making my mind wander and my hands shake. Ba-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-dum, ba-da-da. It stopped, close to my tent, just outside my tent. I could feel its presence near me. It was totally silent. I knew that it couldn't have been a bear. It would be sniffing the tent right now if it were. I doubted that it was a deer. They don't come out at night. Perhaps a wolf? They normally travel in packs, and even if it were a lone wolf, it wouldn't be a threat until I heard growling. But nothing. Just silence. And then it screeched. That's when I knew that thing wasn't anything I'd seen before. Nothing makes that sort of sound. It was like a cross between some sort of bird and a human, like the shit you hear in movies. The kind where possessed people with their heads on backwards make those awful noises. That's when I let fear take over. In my bladder and in my hands, I fired the gun in its direction. And dear God, was that a mistake? It screeched again and it scratched the tent, tearing through the fabric, leaving a massive gash in the side. That was my first look at it, if you could call it a look. I barely saw a silhouette through the hole in my tent, but I did see its long arms, shredding the side of the tent. It was trying to get to me. I fired the rifle again, but I must have missed, because it didn't flinch. That was when the flight reflex took over the fight, and I only wanted to do one thing: run. I turned around and fiddled with the opening of the tent, trying to keep my eye on the beast attacking me, but also trying to secure my escape as fast as I could. I did it, and dove out of the tent, breaking into a full sprint. Behind me, I heard the thing still tearing into my tent. I thought that maybe it mistook its enemy or prey for the tent, and not me. But that relief didn't last long. I wasn't far from the tent when I heard its rhythmic prancing again. Ba-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-dum. It was faster than me, gaining on me. If I tried to outrun it, I would surely be caught. Just then, in what was either a moment of survivalist brilliance or suicidal stupidity, I stopped and dove into a thick bush near me. I remembered that many predators in the forest rely on seeing movement more than anything else. So if I could stay still, then it would not see me. That decision saved my life. It ran past me, stopping in the same place where I stopped. I didn't notice before I hid, but that spot was just under an opening in the trees. A pillar of light penetrated the oppressive dark, and in the moonlight, I could see my assailant. It was pale, made paler by the white of the moon, and hairless, thin, like it had not eaten in weeks. I want to say it looked humanoid, but comparing that thing to a human is just wrong. Its hunched back protruded out, making it look larger than any human. It stood on all fours in such a way that no human could, its rear low to the ground, its long legs bent in such a grotesque fashion that it almost resembled a frog. Ready to leap, it circled around, silently, searching for me. I thought it was about to give up. But then it threw its horrendous back upwards. Its legs straightened, and it stood on two legs, like a person, a deformed, horrific human. And then it looked at me. It looked right at me. It saw me. I know it saw me. Nothing looks at you like that without seeing you. I could tell you the color of its damn eyes, and I bet you it could tell you the color of mine. I clutched the rifle close to my chest, too scared to use it, too scared to move. I closed my eyes and waited for it to pounce. And then, ba-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-dum. I opened my eyes, and it was gone. I didn't move for the rest of the night. I fell asleep in that bush, cuddling with the rifle, until finally being awoken by the sounds of birds. Birds. Thank God, birds. It was already daylight the next morning. I wearily stood up, using the rifle as a crutch to support my aching body. Things seemed to be normal. The forest was speaking once again, and birds and deer aplenty were in sight. I stumbled back to my camp to find my things, mostly as I had left them. My tent was unsalvageable, but I took my backpack, had something to eat, and I left, just like I had planned. The entire trek back, I didn't stop looking around for that thing. I didn't let the gun leave my hands either. It wasn't until I got to the car that I relaxed, calling my friend to tell him I was heading home. I didn't tell him about what had happened last night. I was still trying to process it myself. Shit. I don't think I understood wholly what had happened until after the car ride home. And that's where the story ends. 6 years ago. And I haven't gone camping since. I haven't seen the thing again, nor have I heard of anyone who's seen it. As a whole, my life has moved on completely, but I will never forget that thing. I will never forget how it stared at me, and how it just left. It knew I was there, but it left. Why did it do that? I don't think I'll ever get an answer. Story number 3. One thing my father and I would always bond over was Boy Scouts. He earned the highest rank of Eagle Scout when he was a kid, and he had dreams that I would someday do the same. I was 14 years old at the time, and my troop was at a summer camp in upstate New York. After long days of hiking, kayaking, and other tiresome outdoor adventures, we would always sit around the fire and tell stories. I remember this one particular night like it was yesterday. Someone had told some goofy story about a monster that goes around and eats scouts that don't brush their teeth. Nobody was impressed, but everyone clapped politely for the generous attempt. At this point, everyone was looking for a real scare, so my father decided to step up to the plate. The missus and myself always loved to travel before we had to settle down with our children. He started, nudging my arm. There is one trip I will never forget. We were visiting in San Francisco, indulging in the culture and stopping by some tourist attractions. Since we were always traveling, we liked to budget ourselves and stay at cheap motels. The people working there were always nice, and we didn't have to spend too much money. It was a long day on the road, so we decided to finally settle down. We found an old motel just outside of town and were greeted by a friendly couple that seemed to be in their 70s. We checked in, gave our deposit, and the husband led us to our room. "Hope you don't mind, but some say this motel is haunted," he said to us. Your mother and I exchanged a look. We've heard this kind of story before. Owners just say it to make the stay more interesting, maybe even get a little extra cash. The old man dropped off our luggage in our room and began to leave, but stopped in the doorway. "Continental breakfast starts being served at 7 o'clock sharp," the man told us. I gave him my thanks and slipped him a $5 bill for his help, and he was on his way. I looked around to survey the room. Nothing out of the ordinary. 2 twin beds, a bathroom with a sink, a toilet and a shower, and a 24-inch screen TV. But then I noticed something strange about the room. The windows had been barred shut by a bunch of 2x4s, the nails holding them in place rusted over to show the age. I didn't think anything of it and went to brush my teeth. One thing everyone should know about me is that I'm a particularly light sleeper. So after I finished getting ready for bed, I went over to the door and locked it, then slipped onto the small twin-sized mattress. It was a hot night, so I decided to sleep on top of my sheets. I woke up to the feeling of a strong breeze, much stronger than the rickety old fan hanging from the ceiling. I rolled over to check my watch. It said 2:07 a.m. Another cold breeze hit me, and I noticed something very peculiar. The window that was barred shut by wooden planks was now wide open, with the wood nowhere to be seen. I looked over at my wife, and she was fast asleep. Then I heard a rustling under my bed. I assumed a critter snuck in through the window and was taking refuge somewhere safe. So I lowered my head with caution. I was shocked when I saw that it was the old man from before, hiding under my bed. I grabbed him by the collar and dragged him out. "What the fuck are you doing in here?" I yelled at him, my wife still sleeping. The man didn't say anything to me, just gave an off-putting smile. I threw him against the wall. "Get the fuck out of here or I'm calling the police," I told him, half angry that this man was invading my privacy, but also scared, wondering how he got in there. Looking back at the clock, I realized there was nothing I could do about it now. So I went back to sleep. When I woke up the next morning, my wife and I each showered and got ready for a day of sightseeing and great local food. I noticed the window was barred shut and our door was still locked. Must have just been some wacky dream, I thought to myself. We went downstairs at around 8:30 for the continental breakfast and were greeted by the wife. "I hope you both slept well," she said in her very calm, tender voice. "I had a pretty interesting slumber," I told her. "I do have to speak to your husband, though. I found him under my bed at around 2 last night and roughed him up a little bit." The woman's face turned ghostly white. "Was the window open?" she asked me. "How did you—" "My husband has been dead for 10 years, she said quietly. "He died when a burglar threw him out of that window and still haunts that room, waiting for the man to come back so he can have his revenge." I didn't know what to say. My wife and I immediately packed up our things and left. She eventually forgot about the incident throughout the day, but I still feel uneasy from time to time. The whole camp was dead quiet, all looking at my father, who seemed to have aged into an old man, and was now giving the same off-putting smile my father saw almost 20 years ago. You've reached the end, but the shadows haven't left you. If this story unsettled you, prove you survived. Like this video, subscribe to Spectral Shadows, and leave a comment with the part that haunted you most. The darkness is always waiting, and so are we. Until next time, don't turn off the lights.